Hello, it's Scott with Zenvi AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today, I'm joined by Buddy Russian. He's the founder and CEO of White Feather Investments, one of the fastest growing real estate investment communities focused on helping military members, veterans, and first responders achieve financial freedom through real estate and AI driven business growth. Buddy is a former Marine Corps officer who turned his passion for real estate investing into a movement that has helped thousands of service members build wealth, acquire billions in real estate assets, and transition successfully into civilian entrepreneurship. Buddy, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, doing great.
Yeah, yeah, man, your story's awesome. And I think what you've done it's really cool is just building the community. I know that's a big deal to you guys, and I'm wondering, just kind of start from the beginning. Like, what problem were you originally trying to solve when you started White Feather?
Well, I mean, it's no secret that, it's an all volunteer force, right? The Navy, the Marine Corps, Army and so on. There hasn't been a draft since Vietnam. And so it's people, millions actually of people that volunteer to serve for a variety of different reasons, but most of them have something to do with, being willing to fight to keep America free. I mean, that's kind of the central thread of why people are willing to go, to risk their lives to fight our nation's enemies, because we, at some core level, believe that the American dream of freedom is the greatest dream that someone could have, right? Because it literally is. The beautiful part about the idea of freedom is that it applies to every person. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your gender is, what your belief system is, what your race is, what your age is, where you were born in the country. The freedom to live life as best as you can is ultimately what the American dream really is. You can start, in the gutter, and you could become a multimillionaire. You could start with no last name to speak of and make your last name the first on every person's lips if you want to, right? That's freedom, right? And so that idea is something that I believe is beautiful. I and many, many others were willing to risk our lives to preserve it. But the real sad and tragic irony is, when you think of a veteran, do you naturally think of someone who's doing really well? Probably not. I mean, when you hear the word veteran, if we're being real, and I know that there are veterans that have done great things, but when you hear the word veteran, what is the immediate thought inside your stomach? And it's probably somebody who maybe is struggling a little, maybe somebody's homeless, maybe somebody who's, 22 veterans per day kill themselves, right? Be substance abuse stuff. When you think of military, you often think of honor and respect and admiration and thank you for your service and wow, those guys are heroes and all that kind of stuff. But when you think of veteran, you don't really think that. Now, at least in general. And why is that? They're the same exact person. It's just what happens is, when you're in, and I lived this, when you're in, you have a massive amount of responsibility. You have a community of people with a shared mission. You have all of your expenses are paid for, right? For the most part, right? You have a steady job. You have a commitment to something that seems greater than yourself. And you have a level of discipline and seriousness that oftentimes is life and death. When you leave, all that disappears, including your income. So, and also when you go into the civilian world after being in the military, most of your martial skills are not marketable. I was a combat engineer, which means that I explosively breached through doors and buildings. I hunted down roadside bombs and blew them up. And I ultimately built and tore down expeditionary huts and airfields and things like that, right? None of that stuff really is needed here in Southern California, right? You don't want an expeditionary build. When I say expeditionary, I mean fast and really shoddy. So you don't want a building built expeditionary, right? You do that when you're in combat. You don't, there's no roadside bombs here. There's no, so you come out into this force, and you have unmarketable skills, and you lose that sense of camaraderie and friend. And anyway, so for us, we were like, the real tragedy is the people who are working to preserve the American dream of freedom aren't living it themselves. That's the sad, tragic irony that exists. And that's the driving force, the emotional driving force behind why we decided to build White Feather, to help our nation's heroes build financial freedom so they can actually live that dream they fight to protect.
That's awesome. I love that, man. I'm fired up. So, what separates the members who actually succeed from the ones who stay stuck? Have you kind of taken it back and gone, "Hey, man, these are
Yeah.
the ones that resonate better than other ones"?
Yes. Yes. Well, I'll tell you, once for the number one difference between the people who have sustained success and the people whose lives stay roughly the same is just the action that they take. It's literally the action that they take. And there have been people that have come in, taken lots of action, and their deals have gone sideways, and they've gone through rough patches. Personally, done deals that have gone sideways. I've done deals that have lost 100% of the money I invested, but I've done more deals that have worked than ones that haven't. And that's why I get to be free. So it's not like a smooth road. It's not the people that get lucky. It's not the people that, study the most. All of those things are factors, but it's the action that they take with the tools they have available. And the tools right now are like, there has never been a time ever in human history where the average person has access to tools that are more powerful and mostly free right now. Like, you have free tools, AI powered tools that give you more capability than the president of the United States had 20 years ago. And I can prove that. I can show you demonstrations where, it's like the intelligence apparatus that the president of the United States had in 2006 was not as powerful as Claude, the free version. Right? So, you know,
Yep.
anyway, it's
Wow.
crazy. It's a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah, you kind of talking about that being stuck. Like, what mistakes do you see new investors make repeatedly in today's market that is kind of setting them?
The biggest thing is analysis paralysis. And that's one of the downsides of all of this stuff. I mean, all you have to do is like try to pay attention to everything that's happening every day in terms of AI and technological development, and your brain will just be like, fried. And what happens is you start to like turn away and you just freeze. You don't do anything. So the biggest mistake that people make, and we focus on real estate, and like there's a saying in rental real estate that the very best time to buy was yesterday, and the second best time to buy is today. So, and the reason people say that is because with rental real estate is the number one most powerful ally that you have. Because I did a deal in 2007 where I bought a house that was unrenovated in June of 2007. And the idea was to renovate it and then flip it. Okay. If you remember your history, June of 2007 was right when the market was about to take the biggest housing crash since the Great Depression. And so I bought that house, but I didn't know that. I had no schooling, no training. I didn't even know the market was crashing. So I was renovating this house throughout the rest of 2007 into 2008 with my own money and my own sweat, thinking I was going to flip this thing while the whole world was collapsing. And I don't know. I can't tell you why I didn't know. I just wasn't paying attention and really, watch the news. So in 2008, I just had it appraised after I'd finished renovation. It was worth half of what I bought it for unrenovated. Right. So that was my first thing. I still own that property, by the way, 72285 Sun Valley Drive in 29 Palms, California. You can see that I bought it for 52,000. It dropped down to be worth around 70. But I held on to it and rented it out because I didn't have a choice. That same house in 2026, I still own it. It's worth like 270 now. And I'm cash flowing about $1,000 a month on it. So I'm not going to sell it because it's a great cash flow property. I made the worst mistake you could possibly make, buying at the worst possible time, pouring all my money into a house that lost half its value and was underwater. Time brought that deal into one that's a really great rental now. Now imagine if you didn't make the horrific mistake I made, but rather did an okay deal and then held on to it for time. Okay deals turn into singles, which turn into doubles, which turn into home runs over time. And so what I tell people is the biggest mistake you can make is to not get in the game.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You said something interesting recently you said the White Feather is now an AI company that focuses on real estate instead of a real estate company using AI. What does that mean for you operationally?
Oh my God. Means that everything that I'll give you a perfect example. Right. So let me answer the question first. The answer is that every single thing I do, I ask myself first, can I use AI in some form to do this more efficiently or more effectively? That's what it means being an AI native company. Everything. And I mean writing emails. I mean filling out paperwork. I mean making decisions, launching businesses, preparing speeches, booking flights, literally like my nutrition and like all my supplements, my fitness routine. I'm not kidding. My spiritual enlightenment journey, I can go on and on. Literally, there's no area of my life that I don't ask the question, can AI make this more efficient or more effective or more enjoyable? Here's an example. I've got a ton of equity in a house that I own that's just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, I can use that equity to go do something. So I'm going to put a HELOC on that house. One of the problems with a HELOC when you're a real estate investor and a business owner is and when you fill out a loan form, it's like ridiculous. It's like your schedule of rentals is like 18 pages long and also, and it's like, yeah, sure, that's a first world problem, but it's still a problem. Right. It may take you 6 hours to get all of the documents and put them all together to do a HELOC. Right. So I asked Maverick, who's my AI, right? And I have a bunch of iterations of Maverick. I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, Opus 4.6. And then of course I use Gemini because it's baked into all of the different Google stack. But my biggest one is an OpenClaw agent, right? And that's Maverick, my OpenClaw agent. And so I asked Maverick, I was like, hey, here's all the stuff that they need. Let's talk through how to do this most efficiently. He was like, well, okay, they're asking for all of your properties, when they were purchased, how much they're rented for, and blah, 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 blah. And you've got like 19 rentals. So why don't you give me API access to your Google Drive where you have all of the documents, and I can search through there and find the closing disclosures. I can find your insurance. I can find all this stuff. And so instead of me going through and clicking through and trying to download these and figure out all the stuff and then fill out their obnoxious forms that are super long, I had Maverick compile all the information together for me, right? While I went and fixed a sandwich. And then I came back and he had the whole schedule built. And he had one of the things he needed to find was when they were purchased. And so he went to Zillow first to see if he could find the right, because they're all purchased and Zillow will show when something was last sold typically. And so he went to Zillow to look for what he could find publicly. And what he couldn't find publicly, he found in my Google Drive and pulled it all together. Saved me hours of work, right? That's one example of something I did today that is a process, that is a system that I use that is AI powered, right? And like, I love your systems are sexy thing. And I would just say in the world of AI, an AI powered system is the sexiest of them all.
Yeah. Okay. Now I got to rename the show. Now
Exactly.
you said that.
Systems are sexy in the age of AI.
Speaking of AI, you said I think recently you said the AI window is closing for people who don't adapt. What do you mean by that? Because I've seen that personally, and there are people that are resistant to it, and your competitors aren't, and they're going to go right by you. Is that what you're thinking, or what? Okay.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. And I say this from a place of just caring about people. I have a ton of friends that like, there's 30% of the people in the country don't use AI to any measurable degree at all. Like that's nuts. Of the 70% that do use it, the vast majority of those use it kind of like a Google Plus, which effectively means that, they're just asking it for answers to questions and things like that. The problem with that is, okay, so here's another example. There were 3 people, including Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, who recently did commencement addresses at colleges. All 3 of them, when they brought up AI, were booed. Okay. When they brought up that, and by the way, they're saying, hey, AI is changing the landscape of jobs. It's changing this. It's da da da. This is Eric Schmidt, who's trying to help you understand how your future is going to look. And you're booing him because he brings up AI. Now, why are they doing that? The reason is because if you're a college senior right now, when you entered in as a freshman, AI didn't exist. Now you've got a huge amount of student debt, and the longest unemployed cohort in America is recent college graduates. So you're facing a job market that doesn't want you, and a huge amount of student debt, which is the most toxic debt that exists. You can't even bankrupt out of it. AI is what they see as the reason. And they're not totally wrong. It's just their sentiment doesn't help them. That's what hurts my heart. Is they're not wrong to be scared, right to be scared, but they're wrong to hate on AI because they're not going to win. You're just not going to win. So like you have, and I'll tell to you in this way, and I talk on stages all the time about this, both virtual and in person. And I'm like an evangelist at this point because I'm like, listen, people, like the tsunami, we actually have an event series we call Tsunami, which is AI meets real estate. For the next one's June 13th. Actually, you had asked me before. I don't know when this airs, but if there's anybody that's going to be in the Los Angeles region or wants to be on June 13th, we're having an AI meets real estate conference for a full day. And I'm going to talk about this, right? There is a tsunami that's hit the human race when it comes to AI. Just like any tsunami, if you just ignore it or you're paralyzed by fear, it's not going to care. It's just going to wash over you in the form of job loss, people taking your clients. Like, like if you're an accountant, for instance, think about this for a second. If you're an accountant right now, you typically charge like $150 an hour, something like that. But what do you do really as an accountant? I'm not talking about like an expert lawyer or a CPA that like helps you do tax strategy and stuff like that, which we can talk about that as well. But let's just say you're a bookkeeper. That is digital data entry. That is the lowest hanging fruit for agentic AI, which you can do it for free. You can give an OpenClaw agent. I can give my OpenClaw agent API access to my Dropbox that has all of my bank statements and my mortgage statements, which uses OCR, optical character recognition, to read those statements. And I can give it API access to QuickBooks Online. And then it can data entry from there to there based off of the books that, and I've got 10 years worth of books. So all it does is read my 10 years worth of books and see what all the characterizations are of all these different types of transactions. And then it does digital data entry. And I can save myself $25,000 a year in bookkeeping alone. Why wouldn't I do that, Scott? So if you're a bookkeeper, for instance, and you're not, here's the good news though. If you're a bookkeeper and you're willing to learn how to use AI, then you can have X the amount of clients, charge them $50 an hour, and do the same amount of work yourself. You put in the same amount of hours, but you have agentic capability that's, that checked and double checked for accuracy and all that kind of stuff, right? And you set it up to where everything's secured and personal information is kept secret and all the stuff to keep yourself legal. But you can do 5 times as much work and produce 5 times as much value at a third of the cost. And if you just do the math, that is giving yourself like a huge raise. So that's I just drew a parallel between a bookkeeper, for instance, that doesn't use AI, that ignores the tsunami and loses all of their clients to that other bookkeeper who's doing it a third as expensive.
Yeah. And efficiently.
Yeah.
So as you grow in the business, I always like to ask entrepreneurs, obviously there's parts of the business we do great, parts of the business that are challenging. What do you think your challenges are right now?
One of the biggest challenges is focus because there's so many opportunities. So for instance, I I have my rental properties. I'm building 4 new properties in Florida right now. I have a training program to help people learn how to invest in real estate. I have a White Feather AI community, including a VIP community where I teach people how to integrate OpenClaw into their businesses. We're launching this Tsunami series where I'm teaching people about AI. And in all honesty, I really should have a podcast. I really should have a YouTube channel and a podcast to talk about all this stuff because it's such a hot topic. And like, so what do I focus on in all of that? Right? Like the OpenClaw integration service alone, is something where it's so valuable. People like I charge $5,000 for the installation alone, and people line up to buy it because they're like, it's so powerful. But I can't spend more than a fraction of my time actually generating leads for that because I'm focused on all this other stuff. And so there's so many opportunities that focus is the tricky part. And I think that's the biggest challenge for me right now. If I'm just being completely honest.
Isn't it also about managing your time?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
AI helps with that, but there's something called Jevons paradox, which is basically, saying that like the cheaper something becomes or the more powerful something becomes, it actually, you run into a problem of this explosion of usage. Like for instance, when like AI, like it's virtually free right now, $20 a month, $100 a month, or free, whatever. And yet they have a problem meeting up with the growth demands because you find so many uses for it. And so it just like quadruples and quintuples the amount of uses for it. And so I use AI to efficiently manage my day. But the paradox is then I take on all this other stuff that's possible and my day fills
Right.
back up.
Right.
And so, yes, I am way more efficient than I used to be. And I run 7 businesses. That's a problem because that like starts crowding into my brain. I start getting mental fatigue because I have so much that I'm doing because you have a tendency to want to do more because you're more efficient. Like when I saved myself 3 hours or whatever by having Maverick do all of that data entry, well, now I have 3 hours to do something else. So I'm like, well, why don't I go build this other thing, And so, yeah, I don't have the answer for that. I wish I did. I'm working on it.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about scaling White Feather?
I think for us, we've grown organically because it's been, it's just word of mouth and like, the military and the veteran community is really tight and word of mouth spreads. If you have a good reputation, then that spreads really well. And if you don't, that also does. And so we've never really had to build a marketing apparatus. Like if you look online, you'll find articles and stuff written about us, but you won't find a marketing engine that's there. We're not SEO optimized or any of that other stuff. And I think that's the hardest part is like, our community is massive and we've got a huge amount of success stories and things like that. But I don't really know how to build a marketing platform that ultimately, gets the brand out there the way that I would like to get it out there. What I don't want to do is spam the world with like, I don't want to put $100,000 a month into ads and then just go spam the world. And now I fall into the bucket of everybody else. I'm deliberately don't do that, but I don't know how to do it in a way that's really good and organic and, and represents us properly. I'm an open book, by the way. I'll just tell you anything you want to know. So if this is way too like intel and way too like,
No, that's why I asked. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do for our clients. And it's funny you just said that because especially with real estate, you got to tell your story because if it's just and your story is so unique and you speak with such passion, I can see why it resonates with people. It's just getting in front of people in an authentic way is what matters.
Yeah.
What's your plan? Like, where do you see the business long term? Like, where 3 to 5 years, where do you wanna be?
I mean, well, we have a mark on the wall to hit 1 million members by 2035, and that there's different levels, right? So inside White Feather, the whole idea is you can enter at any like it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're 100 grand in credit card debt and have no job. Like if you've served in some capacity as a veteran or first responder or a family member, I think you should get a shot at building, and you can build from anywhere. Like I've helped people get like specifically, there was one guy that was 150 grand in credit card debt. He had a good job but had terrible credit, 150 grand in credit card debt. And we helped get him on a plan that eventually paid all of that off. And now he owns like four properties, right? So it's a
That's
beautiful
awesome.
thing. So so if somebody is in that, we do have a free community that they can join where they can learn for free and they can interact with other people. And, we've got a basic finance boot camp that they can go to that's, that can help them learn how to budget and use AI to create side income and stuff. But then the idea is that they matriculate on up to the more advanced stuff. And then our upper level is where the AI VIP group is. It's where the real estate investing accelerator is. The Hyperion campaign, where we're buying rental properties around where they're building a $30 billion data center in Louisiana. That's a gangbusters campaign. It's going incredibly well. But that happens at those upper levels. So the idea is, you can enter in at any point. If you're already ready to be at the upper level right away, then you can apply and try to circumvent the lower levels. But the idea is that everybody should be able to fleet up eventually to the upper levels and to build financial freedom. And we've been able to help more than 75 people become millionaires and all kinds of really amazing stuff. So it's fun.
That's awesome. So if people wanna learn more about you or White Feather, what's the best place to go looking for that?
To learn more about me, I mean, I have public profiles on the social media, so I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. My name's Edward Rushing. My nickname's Buddy. If you type in Buddy Rushing or Edward Rushing, White Feather, you're going to find articles and podcasts and various things like that. So feel free to do all the research you want. Ask your AI about it. I'd go to my AI and be like, "Is Buddy Rushing full of crap? Tell me." Right? And just see what he says, right? If he says yes, then move along, right? Go find something better. If he says no, it seems legit, then maybe you should check it out more. You'd go to whitefeatherinvestments.com. There's a lot of different places, but whitefeatherinvestments.com is good. And then, feel free to, I still manage all my own socials and everything. And so if you send me a message, it's likely I'll respond.
That's awesome. Hey, buddy, thanks for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.